Welcome back, coin lovers and treasure hunters, too. Today, we're going back in time to 1965, the year that changed American coinage forever.
Why?
Because this was the first year the United States Mint stopped using silver in the quarter dollar. And yes, we'll also explore how much a 1965 quarter dollar, sometimes called a half-quarter dollar by mistake, is really worth today in circulated condition. Let's dive in. Now, let's get into it. Here's a close-up of the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar. But wait, you might be asking, why does it say half-quarter dollar on the title? That's because, although it's technically a half-dollar, there's been some confusion over the years, and we'll clear that up in a moment. The Kennedy half-dollar was first introduced in 1964 to honor the late President John F. Kennedy, following his tragic assassination in November 1963. The coin was a tribute to his leadership and legacy. The 1965 version, though, holds a special place in the hearts of collectors and is especially significant because it was the first year the U.S. Mint began producing coins without using silver. In the wake of rising silver prices, the U.S. government began reducing the silver content of many of its coins, including the Kennedy half-dollar before 1965. The Kennedy half-dollar was made of 90% silver and 10% copper. But starting in 1965, the U.S. Mint switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition. The 1965 Kennedy half-dollar contains just 40% silver, with the rest being copper-nickel. The transition from a higher silver content to a lower one marked the beginning of a new era in U.S. coinage. The government wanted to combat the rising cost of silver, and this change was crucial for the continued production of coins. Now, let's talk about the value of the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar in circulated condition. The circulated value of the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar is largely determined by its silver content and its condition. As I mentioned earlier, this coin contains 40% silver. This makes it valuable for its metal content, even if it's in used or worn condition. As of now, in 2025, the value of a 1965 Kennedy half-dollar in circulated condition can range anywhere from $4 to $6 USD. This is mainly due to the current spot price of silver, which fluctuates over time. If the coin is heavily worn or has seen a lot of circulation, it might be on the lower end of the scale. But if it's in good condition, with minimal wear, you could see it selling for a bit more. And if you come across a coin in uncirculated or near-mint condition, the value could climb much higher. For reference, if you're curious, in 2025, silver is generally hovering around $25-$30 per ounce. Since the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar has about 0.3617 ounces of silver, the intrinsic silver value alone would be around $9 to $10. This is why the value of these coins is higher than face value, but not quite as high as their full silver content. Now, while the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar may not be the most sought-after of the Kennedy series, it still holds some collectability. There are a few key factors that could increase its value, especially if you find one in great condition. The 1965 Kennedy half-dollar was minted in 3 different locations: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D; and San Francisco, S. Coins from the San Francisco Mint, marked with an S, are rarer and, depending on their condition, may command higher prices, especially if found in uncirculated condition. As with any coin, the better the condition, the higher the value. Coins that are uncirculated or have a higher grade, like MS-63 or higher, can fetch premium prices. These coins are often graded by professional numismatists. Some collectors love the thrill of finding coins with minting errors, and the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar is no exception. If you happen to find one with a unique or rare error, such as a double die or off-center strike, its value could be significantly higher. Let's take a quick look back. The introduction of the Kennedy half-dollar was meant to be a tribute to one of America's most beloved presidents. Over the years, the design of the coin has undergone a few changes, but the image of President Kennedy's profile has remained the centerpiece. From its initial release in 1964 through the years of circulation, the Kennedy half-dollar has become more than just a coin. It's a symbol of respect for a fallen leader and a reminder of a pivotal time in American history. So, to sum it up, the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar is a historically significant coin, especially given its transition away from silver. In terms of circulated value, it's worth a little more than its face value, mainly due to the silver content. But its real worth to collectors depends on its condition, mint mark, and any potential errors. If you're a coin collector, or even if you just stumbled upon a 1965 Kennedy half-dollar in your change, keep an eye on its condition. You might be holding onto a piece of American history that could be worth more than you think. 1963, President John F. Kennedy was tragically assassinated, sending shockwaves through the nation. In response, the U.S. Mint decided to honor Kennedy with a new coin, the Kennedy half-dollar, which was officially introduced in 1964. The coin depicted Kennedy's profile on the obverse, designed by sculptor Gilroy Roberts, while the reverse featured the Great Seal of the United States. The Kennedy half-dollar was originally produced with a composition of 90% silver and 10% copper, similar to previous half-dollar coins. However, by 1965, a major change was underway in U.S. coinage production due to the rising price of silver, which was putting pressure on the U.S. Mint. In 1965, due to the increasing cost of silver, the U.S. Mint made the bold decision to reduce the amount of silver in coins. Starting in 1965, the Kennedy half-dollar was produced with a 40% silver and 60% copper-nickel-clad composition. This was a significant shift, marking the end of the era of silver coinage for most U.S. coins, except for the dollar coins and certain commemorative coins. The Kennedy half-dollar was part of a larger effort to deal with rising metal costs. By reducing the amount of silver in coins like the half-dollar, the U.S. government aimed to preserve the coinage system while cutting costs. This change was part of a broader national shift away from silver in regular circulation coins, a process that continued into the 1970s. The 1965 Kennedy half-dollar was minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D; and San Francisco, S. The 1965 coin was minted in huge quantities, as it was part of a larger effort to replace older coins. The coin was still widely circulated, and many of them, especially those in less than perfect condition, are commonly found today. The design of the coin itself, especially in the years following JFK's death, carried deep symbolic meaning. The Kennedy half-dollar came to symbolize not only the late president's legacy but also the spirit of a nation grappling with loss. The image of Kennedy was powerful in its simplicity and immediacy, a tribute to his vision and his life. The USA 1983 half-quarter dollar coin. If you're into numismatics or just curious about its value, you're in the right place. We'll break down everything from its history to its current circulated value, and much more. So, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. Now, let's take a look at the 1983 half-quarter dollar coin. To be clear, when we're talking about the half-quarter dollar, we're referring to the 50-cent coin, also known as the Kennedy half-dollar. The Kennedy half-dollar was first minted in 1964 following the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy. The coin was designed by engraver Gilroy Roberts, and its reverse, by Frank Gasparo, features the presidential seal. By 1983, the Kennedy half-dollar had already become a staple in American currency. The obverse, front, of the coin features a striking portrait of JFK, while the reverse shows the seal of the President of the United States, surrounded by the words, United States of America, and E Pluribus Unum. The date, 1983, is prominently displayed at the bottom. Let's talk a bit about its composition. The 1983 half-dollar, like other coins from the 70s and 80s, is made of an 11.34-gram copper-nickel blend, with 75% copper and 25% nickel. While it doesn't have the silver content of earlier issues, the coin still holds an interesting place in the history of U.S. currency. In 1983, the U.S. Mint produced a considerable amount of Kennedy half-dollars, but they were never intended for everyday use. Despite being minted in large numbers, the Kennedy half-dollar had already begun to fall out of favor with the public as coins that circulated in everyday transactions. By the early 1980s, it was common to see these half-dollar coins being used less and less, with many people instead preferring paper currency for small transactions. Oh, give you an idea, the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar was produced in 3 main varieties: the Philadelphia, no mint mark, and the Denver, D mint, as well as the proof version from the San Francisco, S mint. Here are the numbers for the mintage in 1983 Philadelphia mint: 35,797,000 Denver mint, 39,710,000 proof, San Francisco mint 3,192,000. As you can see, the mintage numbers are quite high, especially when compared to earlier years where lower production often made the coins more rare. However, the widespread production didn't necessarily translate into rarity or high demand. Alright, so what's the value of the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar in circulated condition? In short, its value is primarily determined by its metal content and condition. For a coin that's seen a lot of use, like one that you might find in your spare change, the 1983 half-dollar generally holds a value of about 50 cents, which is, of course, its face value. However, if the coin is in better condition, say a brilliant uncirculated state or close to it, the value might go up a bit, generally ranging between $2 and $5. But if you're hoping for a huge windfall from this coin, it's important to know that the 1983 Kennedy half dollar is still relatively common and not considered rare or highly sought after in most collector circles. However, there's a twist. If you happen to have a special version of the coin, like a proof coin or a coin with some kind of unique error, the value could increase significantly. Proof coins, which were struck with a special process to create higher quality coins for collectors, can often be valued higher. For example, a proof version of the 1983 Kennedy half dollar could be worth anywhere between $10 and $15 depending on its condition. And let's not forget about potential errors. Coins with mistakes, whether it's a misstrike or something more unusual, can sometimes bring in premium prices. For example, look out for any double die errors or off-center strikes, as they can be a collector's dream. Oh, what about the future? While the 1983 Kennedy half dollar may not be the most exciting coin in terms of numismatic value right now, it's always possible that its value could increase as collectors continue to search for higher quality coins or interesting variations. In the grand scheme of U.S. coinage, the Kennedy half dollar is still a beloved series, and coins from the 1980s might become more desirable in the future, especially as the number of circulating examples continues to dwindle. So, there you have it, folks, the 1983 Kennedy half dollar. While it's not likely to make you rich anytime soon, it's a piece of American history, and it can certainly be an interesting addition to your coin collection if you're into U.S. The Kennedy half dollar was introduced in 1964 as a tribute to President John F. Kennedy, who was tragically assassinated in November 1963. The coin's design was selected in the wake of Kennedy's death, with the intent to honor his legacy and service as the 35th President of the United States. The coin's obverse, front, features a portrait of President Kennedy, designed by engraver Gilroy Roberts. The image is based on a photograph taken by Cecil Stoughton, the White House photographer. The phrase, "Liberty," is inscribed at the top, with "In God We Trust" to the left, and 1964 or the respective year at the bottom. The reverse of the coin was designed by Frank Gasparo, the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint at the time. It features the presidential seal, with an eagle holding a shield, and the words, "United States of America," and "E Pluribus Unum." The denomination, half dollar, is also inscribed on this side. The Kennedy half dollar replaced the Franklin half dollar, which had been minted from 1948 to 1963. The decision to switch designs was heavily influenced by the tragic loss of JFK and the public's desire to remember him in a permanent way. The original Kennedy half dollar was made of 90% silver, as was standard for U.S. coins at the time. However, by 1965, rising silver prices led the U.S. Mint to shift the composition of the coin to a clad version, made of 40% silver and 60% copper. From 1964 to 1970, the Kennedy half dollar was widely circulated, but by the early 1970s, its use in everyday transactions began to decline. It became more of a collector's item than a coin regularly used in circulation. During the 1970s, the Kennedy half dollar was gradually phased out of circulation. The rising costs of minting these coins and the public's shift away from using them for small transactions led to reduced demand. In 1971, the U.S. Mint stopped producing the coin for general circulation, but it continued to mint special edition proof coins for collectors. Why 1983, when the coin was still being minted, it was no longer in active circulation. The majority of Kennedy half dollars were being held as collector's items or stored away, rather than used in everyday transactions. The 1983 Kennedy half dollar had a mintage of over 75 million coins between the Philadelphia and Denver mints. However, most of these coins never made it into the hands of the public. The primary reason for this is that by the early 1980s, the coin had become somewhat obsolete in daily commerce. People preferred using smaller denominations or paper currency, which led to the Kennedy half dollar being less frequently seen in circulation. In 1983, the U.S. Mint produced three types of the coin: Philadelphia, no mint mark, ***, 35,797,000 coins minted; Denver, D mint mark, ***, 39,710,000 coins minted; Proof, San Francisco, S mint mark, ***, 3,192,000 coins minted. The 1977 USA half-quarter dollar, also known as the quarter dollar 1977, but specifically focusing on its circulated value. Whether you found one in your change or are just curious about its worth, stick around because we're covering everything from history, design, to how much it's worth today. The 1977 quarter dollar is part of the well-known Washington Quarter series that's been circulating since 1932. The quarter was designed to honor George Washington, the first president of the United States, with his profile on the obverse side, and the eagle on the reverse side until the state quarters program started in 1999.1977 was a pretty standard year for quarters. The coins were minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, identified by no mint mark or a D, respectively. But despite its ordinary appearance, the 1977 quarter is a popular coin among collectors and everyday folks alike. Let's talk design. On the front, or obverse, you'll see George Washington's bust facing left, with the inscriptions Liberty above and the motto In God We Trust to the left. At the bottom, you can find the year 1977. Flip it over, and the reverse features the classic American bald eagle with outstretched wings perched on a bundle of arrows with 2 olive branches beneath, symbolizing peace and strength. This design stayed consistent for decades until the state quarters program launched in 1999. One thing to keep in mind: the 1977 quarter is made of a copper-nickel clad composition. This means it has a core of pure copper sandwiched between 2 layers of cupronickel, 75% copper, 25% nickel. This composition is what gives the quarter its silver-like appearance, but also means it doesn't hold intrinsic metal value like pre-1965 silver quarters. Okay, so what about the value? The circulated value refers to the worth of coins that have been used in everyday transactions and show signs of wear, like scratches, faded details, or discoloration. For the 1977 quarter, since it's a relatively common coin, its circulated value is typically just face value, 25 cents. Most circulated 1977 quarters in average condition aren't considered rare or particularly valuable because millions were minted, over 300 million at Denver alone. However, there are a few exceptions where you might find a little extra value. Factors that can boost the value include coins with less wear, sharper details, or that look almost uncirculated can fetch a bit more. Collectors pay premiums for coins graded MS-60 or higher. Some collectors look for coins from specific mints. The 1977 P, Philadelphia, and 1977 D, Denver, are both common, but Denver coins tend to be more plentiful. If your coin has mint errors, like double dies, off-center strikes, or unusual markings, it could be worth significantly more. These error coins are rare and highly sought after. If you come across a 1977 proof quarter, usually with a mirror-like finish, those can be worth a few dollars or more. So, if you want to sell your 1977 quarter, here's the scoop: circulated coins *** usually only bring face value, 25 cents. Uncirculated or near uncirculated coins *** can sell for around $1 to $3 depending on condition. Proof coins and error varieties *** can fetch $5 to $50 or more, depending on rarity and demand. If you think you have a rare error, it's best to get it authenticated and graded by a reputable coin grading service like PCGS or NGC before selling. 1977 quarters are everywhere. You might find them in your change, at banks, or online auctions. If you want to start a collection of 1970s quarters, consider buying rolls from banks or online sellers and inspect them closely for those rare gems. And that's a wrap on the 1977 USA half-quarter dollar. Whether you have one lying around or you're looking to start collecting, these coins are a cool piece of American history, even if their circulated value isn't sky-high. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more coin content, and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Drop a comment below if you found any interesting 1977 quarters or other coins you want me to cover next. Thanks for watching, and happy collecting!